Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Some parents I speak with tell me that they disagree with their spouse about how to respond to an adult child's estrangement. One wants to send an apology, say, and the other wants to go radio silent until their offspring comes around. One wants to send a birthday card, and the other says, no, nothing until we hear from her. And this question is at the forefront of their minds. Should we present a united front? In other words, do we need to get on the same page about how we deal with our child and follow a single strategy together? And this is a very good question that I think might stem from what we know is good to do when you're parenting little kids. Parents of young children fare best when they present a united front. Doing things as a team demonstrates to the children that mom and dad are partners in parenting. They agree about what the rules are and when to enforce them. That way, the kids can't easily play one parent off against the other. So when your 6-year-old asks if he can stay up late, or your teenager wants to go away for the weekend, mom and dad consult each other and make a decision together. That's a united front that works well for younger families with children. But now that your child is an adult and is estranged from one or both of you, how important is it to present a united front? Until we have research on this question, I can only offer an opinion and not a definitive one because there are so many different possibilities here. Your child might be estranged from mom but not dad, or vice versa. Or he's estranged from one and only semi-estranged from the other. Or estranged from one, then the other, and it goes back and forth with the parents taking turns being rejected. Or the child is estranged from both of you, or semi-estranged from both. It's impossible to come to a single answer when the inputs are so varied, but what I can do is offer some general ideas for you to think about as you're grappling with this question. I'll talk about both estrangement from one parent and estrangement from both parents in this episode. My personal bias is that in most cases of estrangement, a united front is not required. This doesn't mean you can freely speak ill of your spouse with your child. I would never recommend that you do that. You don't want to create an alliance with your child against your spouse. You and your spouse or partner are the two senior adults in this situation, so just like when your child was 6 years old or 16, you will set the tone for the overall quality of both of your relationships with your child. But you no longer have to speak with a single voice on all matters. By not presenting a united front, I mean that you get to decide on your own how to manage your relationship with your adult child, even if your spouse has other ideas. This doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't talk about it together, only that you don't have to agree on a plan. Very often, the reason for presenting a united front is to punish the adult child for estranging herself from one or both parents, to impose consequences for that behavior. The spouse who wants a united front is often the one who favors imposing consequences until the adult child comes around. The idea is, if she won't talk to us, then we shouldn't talk to her. Or in the case of partial estrangement, if you see our child when she won't talk to me, you're condoning her behavior and she has no reason to stop. I've spoken to both moms and dads who find themselves in the middle. They want desperately to see their child, but they feel like they're betraying their spouse by doing so. The parent in the middle is pulled in two directions, by the child they long to see and the spouse who feels betrayed. So being in the middle is no picnic. And it's these parents who are most confused about whether a united front might be the right response to a partial estrangement. It's understandable that the targeted parent is deeply hurt by what feels like a betrayal by their spouse, who also understandably wants to maintain that connection with the adult child. But that rejection is just so devastating when you're the only one who's singled out for it. There's no solidarity with your spouse, so you feel all alone in your pain. And yet, the one thing that feels like a solution is really no solution at all, because estrangement isn't solved by more estrangement. It may be counterintuitive, but an estranged child who's allowed a good relationship with just one parent is more, not less, likely eventually to make amends with the targeted parent. I believe this for two reasons. Number one, if they feel close to and supported by the favored parent, they have the emotional anchor that it often takes to return to a relationship that was troubled. And secondly, it's harder to continue a relationship with just one of your parents when they live together, especially if the adult child knows how much it would mean to the favored parent for them all to be able to be together again. So if you're in the position of the rejected parent and you find it unbearable to think of your spouse getting together with your child, know that their relationship could work in your favor over time. Rather than requiring your spouse to join you in a united response to your child, take this time to do some emotional healing from all the hurts you've experienced, even before this one. And then take the compassion that results from that healing and do your own work on your relationship with the estranged adult child. What went wrong in that particular relationship? How can you make repairs? If you have a genuine desire to learn and grow and repair the relationship, you will make headway. If you have no idea what the problem is, see if your spouse can help you figure out some avenues for you to explore. There is so much you can do as a parent to improve your relationships with all your children. Don't let the shame of being rejected by your child paralyze you into bitterness or apathy. In the case where your child is estranged from both you and your spouse, if you want to send an apology for some things but your spouse balks at apologizing, you can each follow the course that feels right for you. Just make sure if you do write to your child that you write only on your own behalf. Don't say Dad and I or your mother and I if the words aren't really coming from both of you. Consider that an apology from I to thou might come across as more personal and more powerful than one from your dad and I to thou. Now that your child is an adult, each parent has his or her own relationship with him. You're not required to communicate as a pair, especially if you're not truly on the same page. Do share your rationale for your approach if your spouse is interested, but if not, you're free to make the repairs you want to make, or not. And your spouse must be free to repair his relationship as he sees fit, or not. If your spouse is clearly making a mistake, don't withhold information that could help, but let him do what he will with the information you give him. You can lead a horse to water, as they say. Ultimately, your relationship with your adult child is yours to manage. If you follow your spouse's lead against your better judgment, in the interest of presenting a united front, it's a setup for resentment if things don't move in the direction you wanted them to. If you decide that a united front works for you, then sure, do speak with one voice together as a team. Whatever you decide, remember again, and you might want to share this with your spouse, that estrangement is never solved by more estrangement. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.